amazing.
George Thorne is our nonprofit coach.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh.
He coaches Leah and I in the nonprofit we work for.
That's
And,
excellent.
He's been an incredible mastermind for us this year in all of the trouble that we've been getting up to.
And he cackles. He loves it. Like it's his
Oh,
favorite
he's the
thing.
most wonderful guy.
And he makes you feel like, it's funny when you start looking more closely, you realize like there's at least 200 or 300 arts nonprofits in Portland that find him just as valuable as we do. And we even asked him once, so are we like,
Oh my God, this is so
the
funny.
special one? And he basically broke into a sea shanty in which the chorus was, you know, kind of love the one you're with, the port you're in at the moment.
That's hilarious.
He's amazing. He's been in
He is
nonprofit
amazing.
for a long time, but we digress.
All right, sorry, carry on.
Carry on.
Bye, Leah. Have fun.
Okay, everybody. So today is finding your visual voice. We did this one when I first started, but this one is going to be a little different. It's actually like ways to create your own visual language. We're going to be spending quite a bit more time on alternative mark making than we previously did. But we're going to start with some questions. So, I mean, the point of this class in the first place, this finding your own visual voice, is that abstract art can be just a world full of copycat work. It's really hard because you're creating your own voice. It's really hard to resource if you don't have images or ideas in mind. So Flora Bowley, who is a Portland-based abstract intuitive painter, wrote this book called Fresh Paint. And the reason she wrote the book is because she is like a pioneer of online teaching for art, and she does retreats and stuff like that. And her work gets copied so much. Like all of her students come out painting just like her. And I can always tell if somebody's been a Flora Bowley student. And I think she probably just got kind of sick of being copied so much that she created a book on how to create your own visual voice. It's important. And so she does a lot of writing inquiries and meditations as part of her process, which if we weren't doing this class via Zoom every week would probably be part of our conversations as well. But she does a lot of writing prompts. So if you have a scrap piece of paper with you, I have this one conveniently not because I planned for it. I will tell you, you guys should know that in order to do this class today, I knew that I needed to have my big glass palette clean. And I have not scraped it, maybe 2.5 years. And it was quite the fiasco in my studio this morning as I cleaned my glass palette. I have a palette that is the size of a tabletop. It was a desk that I used to use. And when I got rid of the desk, I kept the tabletop, like it's that large. It's beautiful because it's on these little things like little risers. So it sits up off the table. But you should have seen the process of cleaning it so that I could use it. The reason I'm going to use it and what we're going to talk a little bit about today is glass is easy to use with acrylic specifically, because you can scrape it clean using a razor blade. And it also creates a great surface when you're putting paint down on it for using a brayer if you're going to be using any kind of texture making tools. So today we're going to be talking about texture making tools. So I needed to have my glass palette out. I digress, I'm sorry. So we're going to think about some of the things that define you. So we're going to do this writing prompt. It's really just a fill in the blank, Mad Lib style. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what are the ways you can convey your own visual language? And some of these prompts come into that, okay? So the first prompt is, when I look around my house now, it is clear that, and it just says blank. So you can put whatever your brain comes up to. When I look around my house, I'm gonna think about my house. This is all about you, what you like and love. Let me know when you're, just raise your hand and we'll go on to the next one. When I walk down the street, I usually notice, what I usually notice is, you're doing not hip hop. Okay. The music I love is, it's funny that we, that is the question right now, considering that probably once every 2 weeks or so, I get to listen to my music. And it's because I like folk music and like Americana. And Audrey and our studio assistant like either top 40s or hip hop. So my music drags them down. Is what I might change it this afternoon, but not soon. Yeah. The next prompt is, I collect. Hi there. Oh, and gone. Okay. I love to travel to, or the question can be, I want to travel to.
Hi. Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. I'm here. Hello.
Hello. We're just doing a couple of writing prompts to start today. So just basically getting a feel, I think, for what we like and the things that we care about. Because when you're creating your own visual language, you need to come from a perspective of you, obviously. So that's what we're doing. We only have a couple more, so you don't need to worry about it.
Okay, cool.
The next one is, I find inspiration in. Leslie's got a list. People who really know me know that. Oh man, this is a hard question.
Is it? I immediately wrote something down.
I think it's because I'm in the middle of a personal crisis about this right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's part of a big growth moment in my life. So it's actually kind of a good thing. You know how divorce just rips up your whole life and kind of reworks everything. I'm just in the process of reworking it.
Yeah.
This one's very important. My favorite colors are. And here's the last one, which might not apply to all of you, but it might. My art style could be described as, or I wish my art style was described as. It's a hard one. I once had my art described as poetic, and I felt really good about that.
That's nice.
It was a nice description. Okay. So what does that have to do? What do our writing prompts have to do with, today's class, which is about ways to convey your own language? Is what we find, especially with abstract art, is that the really small nuances become some of the most important differentiating factors. And that these things come from questions like this. When you talk about who you are, what inspires you, what your favorite colors are, and things like that. Ways that we can convey our own language, we have covered some of them. Color palettes are a major way. You will find with artists, you will look at certain types of art and you will know the artist by looking at it. Lynn Jewel Hansen always painted with the same paints and the same colors. I used to know a girl in Portland that always mixed her own colors, and no matter what, she was so surprisingly good at making them look the same every time. But because she mixed her own shades, her palette was very distinct. And I could tell no matter what kind of work she was doing that it was hers. So we've done a lot of work about color palettes. You're going to find that you are drawn to certain color palettes. I tend to know what my current color palette is because it fits in this bag that I take back and forth from the studio to my house, because these are the paints that I'm using right now. And whether I'm working at home or at studio depends, So I always kind of know that that's just my current palette. Those are my favorite paints. Some other differentiating factors are tools that we use, the ways that we make marks, materials incorporated. So with collage painting and collage work, there are many artists who work very hard to use specific types of collage fodder. It's called fodder. And
I didn't know it was called fodder. I like that.
That's a lot of people will just reference that whole concept of collage materials as fodder. I mean, it's everything. Some people use French vintage, pieces that are scavenged at estate sales. And some people, there's an artist out of Portland who's from India. And so she uses really old Indian papers that because she makes her own pigments and they work better on the paper. So the materials incorporated. Some people, like I have a scrapbook at home that has some important papers and pictures from my life, and I've turned them into collages as a way of documenting them and keeping them. Size and scale can be a major factor for some artists. Some artists go really, really large, and some artists always work really, really small. Use of light and dark, whether an artist paints particularly dark or they paint particularly light, can be a factor. And then type of brush mark. You'll see in general that abstract artists tend to come back down to the same marks that they continuously make. And then of course the use of texts and symbols. I'm going to share a video. Well, it is an Instagram, and we may have looked at this profile before. It's very interesting because when you're talking specifically about the concept of making your own language and ways of making work that is inherently yours, and creating your own visual voice, it's interesting to consider these artists who are two guys who make abstract paintings using robots that they create. So it's very, their videos are very intriguing because you can see that these are clearly like, they're not AI, it's not alternative, they're not smart robots, but they repetitively, these robots make the same marks. And when you look at the work, it's very distinct. Hold on. We want some more of, I get lost in kind of some of these process shots of the different ways that they figured out to work these and to power these different things. It's very interesting to consider, what does this say about the artist, that their tool use is this kind of what they call robots, does it differentiate from the artist's voice to have something like this? And they set them up like this. This is like a great example where you can see how they set it up. It's incredible to consider.
Are they manipulating which
No.
way the machines go?
They plug them in, so they set them up in
Okay.
different ways. Yeah. So
Yeah,
they're just
like set a
plugging them.
parameter and
Right, and they have to
That's
figure out obviously how they want and they move them clearly.
mhm.
It's very
It's very
interesting.
male.
Truly,
I
They're
think it
men.
is.
yeah.
It's
they're
kind
men.
of cool though, actually.
It's really cool.
I mean, think of the possibilities for disabled people to
And-
create.
And I think that it says something when you consider voice, like you still see their very specific voice,
Yeah.
because they're still choosing, they're creating the ways that these things work, and then they're choosing what kinds of materials they use to make their marks, right? It's a very interesting concept when you want to talk about what makes an artist. So this artist is a woman, and you will probably look at her work and think that she's very female because it looks very female. So she was known for these types of paintings, this color of blue, these big water swirls, right? And they're very specific. That they're her work. Let's go back to before she was trying to break out of it. And she really amassed a giant following for these paintings. This is like the older stuff. These paintings using blue and using white and a little bit of pink. And then people started to copy her, right? And so she started to experiment with new color ways and new concepts and ways of expressing herself and her voice, because she was being copied so much. The reality is this style of abstract art is really everywhere. But she was really at the forefront for a long time of just doing massive amounts of these blue. Everybody has a blue face, but these style of paintings, you know what I mean? Color palette can go a really long way when you want to talk about making your work feel like your work. For a long time, I was known as the bright artist. But really what we're going to spend most of our time talking about today, while all of those things are important, we've covered them in several of our classes. We've talked about them repeatedly. These are concepts that we know. We're going to talk about alternative mark making. I think that this is some of the more interesting ways you want to talk about differentiating your style is finding interesting ways to use materials that already exist. So I have gotten out some of my favorite materials, and I'm going to show you some examples. And then we're going to talk about, make sure I have everything. Oh, I didn't bring, that's fine, it won't kill me. And then we're going to talk about how this might play into work. So 2 kitchen utensils that I use on a consistent basis. I've showed you this spatula. I picked it up at a dollar store, which Stephanie, I don't know if you know what a dollar store is, but they're really bad. They're really weird stores here that just sell everything for $1. They've clearly got it off some sale rack. So Betty Crocker offloaded 5 million of these spatulas to the dollar stores, and I picked up like 10 of them. What I liked about them, okay, so when you're choosing utensils at home to work with paint, silicone is always best. Okay, so it's for baking generally. This one's nice because it's got 2 different sizes and it actually comes off for cleaning. It has it's got some interesting like curvature that can make interesting shapes. I've got like 500 of them, so I could in theory cut them up if I wanted to make them different. And then one of Audrey's students brought in this, which is silicone as well. It's got a nice, really thick frame. It's great for scraping. But it's got a rounded edge, which makes it do a little bit more interesting things there. I will test drive all of these in a little bit. This is one of my favorite contraptions that you can make at home with the clips that you use to hang laundry.
That's cool.
This is, these are my watercolor crayons. You can put paintbrushes work too. You can put paintbrushes in here. What I have done is in the hole where it goes on the laundry fence, I put my first one. This one has the back around the orange and then the laundry hole around the front. And then the back of this one has the second color of pink. And then I taped it for sturdiness, right? And then it's a controlled mark, okay?
So cool.
Right, kind of to the ways that you might see those robots work, right? There are people who create things like this that have like 50 items and they go on one giant painting and that makes one mark. It's just a fun way to experiment with how you can push your materials. This is a great, so this is a Christmas decoration. However, I used to make these just by getting plants outside that had little things like this, you know, and then I would just tape them to a stick. I just happened to keep this one from our Christmas decorations, and I'm gonna actually load up. So here's some things about when you're working with mark making. And we're gonna make some paintings that look a lot like the robot paintings for a while because you're just figuring stuff out. Higher flow acrylics are a better choice, only because they're liquidy. Oh, my phone. Sorry. So higher flow acrylics. I'm going to add acrylic or I'm going to add some water to my high flow already so that it's just a little looser. Okay. And then this weird sparkly thing can be dipped in paint and used in a couple of different ways. I even sometimes, well, it's loaded, so to say, it's got paint. I'll dip it in a little bit of water just to loosen up the load. So it can be used to create marks like this, like a brush. So if you're creating this with nature, you go outside and you get some dried plants, particularly. You're gonna tape it to a piece of stick. And you want them to have a variety of heights and, you know, kind of spread out like this. You can also use it not only to create these beautiful marks. I'm really loving the marks that this thing created, but you can also use it to create dots, right? Like this. So what you're going to find is when you start looking into nature to create, there's a whole cult following of painters who like to make their own brushes. And I'm so sorry for the overhead light. I don't know what it is today that's making these dumb shadows. But you're going to find that lots of different trees and lots of different things like that make different marks and act as different kinds of paint brushes. Okay. Another one of my favorites is your to-go knife. So I'm the queen of being out in weird places making art like this. I usually am like, I don't know, on vacation or something and outside. So one time I tried my knife because I wondered what the little cutouts of the knife were going to do on my paper. They do make their own unique type of mark. Right, and you can see here that there's kind of a striation in it. I tend to like this a lot too, if you can get it watery enough and it'll print better. Chaos, always here. This is a chopstick. They're great for controlled, perfect circles. You want to talk about the weird things that we have hanging out in our house that can be used to make your art practice a little bit more playful. The chopstick thing is one of my favorites because I'm a big dot girl. I really like to get out there and do a lot of dot work in my paintings. So it's a big favorite of mine. Easy to maintain. You just wipe it off, whoop, and done. And then I want to talk just a little bit about the credit card thing again. So one thing that we talked about when I was telling you about how I use credit cards often and for the straight edge, I often cut them up as well so that they create their own texture. This is a particularly fun one where you can see it's got the tiny little notches. And so that part of it creates its own little mark making. I'll show you a picture of it when I get it all done so you guys can see. But there are 3 little lines that kind of go through and can be really fun. This one is used honestly more on textures that are super thick and they're already on the paper because it's so deep. If you were to cut it shallower, you could get different shapes out of it. It's pretty common knowledge that I love the paint scraper, the drywall scraper. They were my favorite for a really long time. You can get them again at the dollar store. If it can be gotten at the dollar store, I've probably gotten it for art. So now we're going to talk about, we're going to go onto this page over here, printmaking. This is where it gets to be a little bit more fun. So I have a brayer here. A brayer is this roller thing right here. I have 2 of them. Okay. This is the one that I actually use when I want to do prints of weird things in my house. This one is one that I have left the acrylic paint on because it has its own texture. It is its own. This brayer makes its own mark every time it looks like this brayer. Brayers are really fun for mixing colors on your paper is my favorite thing because they layer so interestingly and you can see how the textures play on top of themselves. However,
where does one get a brayer?
Any art supply store. They're really common. And honestly, this one, oh, it's not this one. I have another one that came as a Mod Podge kit for Mod Podge. They are often in the painting section. They come in 1,000 different ways. They're great fun. And if you don't have a brayer, you should really get a brayer. And they come even in like shapes and stuff too. So printmaking. So here are 2 weird things. Okay, this is from some packaging material that our studio assistant gave us, right? Funky cardboard. And this is one of my favorite things. Hold on, I gotta get scissors and fix this. Okay. So this is a lemon bag holder. Or you can get them for limes, fruits, weird glass baubles too, like anything that can be bagged. Okay. And it's got this texture, this fishnet texture. Okay. So I am going to show you here's my glass palette. I got a lot on here today, as every day. Okay. So I use my brayer, the smooth brayer, to smooth it out on my glass palette. Okay. Get it kind of thin. Okay. I'm gonna put this is when you're gonna get dirty, so do not expect this to be a pretty process. So then I'm gonna roll over the fishnet, right?
Oh,
To get
cool.
the ink
Yeah.
on the fishnet, right? And then I'm going to, you can do it one of two ways. I tend to like to do this way with my scraper
Mhm.
to get the image, okay? Some people will have a clean brayer that they'll use, okay? And then of course the purple blotch that came from being dipped in purple, right? Okay, and it makes its own tiny little type of print. You can also take your brayer and just brayer on top of it, and the brayer will also create its own little secondary types of marks. This one is really fun for me on jelly plate printing too. It does the same kind of thing. It's just one of those things like when you're really getting into mark making and you're like, what kinds of marks do I even like? What am I trying to do here? Anything goes. And you should really try things that you wouldn't think to yourself, oh my gosh, that's gonna work, right? So another thing, we kind of covered this last time. Ooh, yeah. Kind of covered this last time, is cutting up brushes. This is a paintbrush, like a house paintbrush. It got trashed because you can see where it's still got paint on it. And what I did was I cut out the bristles so that it makes its own thing. And then let me get my paint prepped because it really needs a good amount of paint. And then it also makes its own mark. So on top of all the weird art supplies that I use, I tend to try and find interesting and new ways to explore materials that I already have. I also this one's going to be a very messy little demo here, right? And you can see the marks that it makes compared to, like, say, a straight crossed mark that it would normally make. I also, as you guys know, use conventional stencils. What I'm going to say about conventional stencils is this is another brayer thing for a lot of people. You know, putting the stencil down and then braying over top. I have not been as successful because I'm messy as F-U-C-K. So what I actually do is use spray paint and to get the marks that I'm looking to get. This time though, I just went over the plastic. I kind of inked it and then I'm rubbing it down. This is one of my favorite ones that gets used a lot. And you can see where the stencil, oh yeah, probably would help if you could see. Sorry guys. You can see where the stencil is right here. Okay. Last but not least, we talked a little bit about using coffee as a, to create kind of a paint that you would paint with.
I just got some.
Okay, well, today's a great day. You're gonna need it. Crystals, the crystals itself will create their own kind of mark. So you sprinkle them on your actual paper. I use a squirt bottle, right? Spray from above. You don't really want the crystals themselves to move too much. You want to wet them, which creates the process of them becoming coffee. And then you're going to have to, this is one you have to be patient about and let dry, because you're going to let it dry and then you're going to wipe off the powder that's left and you will get little brown circles, marks that particular thing made. At this point, I've got some great stuff going on here. My little weird, look at these wild and willy little things that we have going here. Yeah. I'm gonna let them dry. Oh, I was gonna talk about this. So this, I started playing with this stuff just because I'm weird. I'm kind of like Stephanie. I'm like, what what can I use that I'm not supposed to use in painting? Let me do it. Stephanie needs to get a brayer because I think you'll find a lot more things that you enjoy. So I like to get paint on it, right? Similar to the sponge. And then this is where having two brayers is kind of nice. I'm going to put it down like this. I'm going to use the one that doesn't have anything on it to push it into the paper and make its own texture. This is a really freeing part of abstract art where you're not worrying so much about the end process. What it is though, is the important parts about this kind of exploring of mark making for yourself is choose a color scheme or a selection of colors that you know is going to work well. You will be more successful if you're really intelligent about your color palette. I know that this color of quinacridone, nickel azo gold, and this specific color of purple look really beautiful together. I'm not going to throw in a hot pink or a bright green to this because it's just going to look like a mess. At this point, I'm going to let it dry and probably pull up some new papers and start to do it a little bit again. So today's exercise is a little more free form than we normally like to go. Oh no. Because the intention here is to take our list and look at our list that we have created for ourselves. Think about some of the things that we've learned about in the last couple of weeks and start to consider some places in abstract art that you might like to explore in your own work. And what I would like you to do, if you have the ability to, go through your house a little bit and find some weird things that aren't probably meant to be art supplies and see if you can explore them. If you have the time to go outside and get something from outside, I always find great success. My studio is in the middle of a city, so there's no outside like our house. But we're going to be working on creating one or two. Oh, I'm ripping it.
Damn.
Oh, I'm going to try to go from the other side.
Oh, don't you hate that?
Yep. Welcome to the paint tape fights of 2022.
We're ready to rumble.
Right. What I'd like you guys to do is look at the thing about your favorite colors and the things in your house and the things that you're inspired by. And I want you to consider how you might explore some of that in today's working. Work on a color scheme that's intentional, not that is normal or average, but something that speaks about you as an artist. And then work on one or two new tools. You got coffee, Jean, so you're going to definitely be working with some of the coffee and exploring what that might mean. So that means that your color scheme needs to go with brown, with sepia, right? So be smart about how you can use that in a really beautiful way. Once things over here dry a little bit, I'm actually going to probably get out my drying gun and I finish these. I'm going to do a gold leaf demo today. So,
Ooh,
right, I haven't done
have
gold
some
leaf
gold
demo.
leaf. I bought some. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, gold leaf is a big thing in my artwork, in my abstract painting. So I'm going to show you guys how I do gold leaf. After this completely dries, I'm going to need to completely wash my hands because I can't gold leaf in this hand. But does that seem clear? Does anybody feel lost with today's assignment? Okay, I'm going to send photos of these on the WhatsApp thread so that you can take a look at them. And then what I'd love to see is, as you guys are making decisions about your color palette, why don't we share that with each other? And so that we can get a little look-see-loo and see what kind of weird marks we can make today, huh? Today's all about things that are weird. Yeah, well, weird stuff's going on here too. Okay, you can see how different the little marks look, but they're really nice and lovely. There, I sent them through for you all. Let's start with your color palette. I'm gonna mute my computer and I'm gonna wash my hands so that I can do the gold leafing demo. Sound good? Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, now I have clean hands. Oh, I do need to source all my gold leaf stuff. Oh man, I gotta sop up some of this. Got some wildness going on in this painting here. Another thing not to forget is that, you know, text and symbols are a part of visual language. And that is an option if you're looking, you know, if you're looking for something. Sometimes a little blind contour drawing or a text or a word is a totally appropriate additive to get your point across. I clearly need to figure out what my third color of the day is going to be, as well as dry this off.
We only get 3 colors?
You can do
Well, I've got more than 3.
You can do as many colors as you want. I'm going to do a third color on mine. You are welcome to go wild and willy and do what feels right to you. I just need some kind of zazzle and pop in mine. It's beautiful, but it needs a little bit of something else. So I think I'm gonna pull in some a color of blue, or maybe more of a teal or a turquoise would be a better choice. Remember, as you're working, when you're exploring with things like this, don't be afraid to cover things up. That can feel really stressful sometimes, to cover up work that you really love or marks that you really love. But the more layers that you take the time to put into your work, the better it's going to look. I want to play more with these crayons too. Hold on one second. I keep getting a call from Eugene where my mom lives, so give me a second. Oh, sorry, everybody. It interrupts my computer. It makes it difficult. And I think it was just a scam. They just tried to repeatedly call me. And I'm just not that stupid. Worked in banking for too long.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I worked in financial services for 7 years.
Oh, did you like it?
I did. I really love numbers. I'm great.
Yeah,
I do. I
that's
love
cool.
and I love the customer service aspect of it. And honestly, like my life has been a series of weird jobs that have honestly played out to some really great strengths now as a small business owner.
Yeah, that's
I have
true.
a lot better understanding of financing and how things work. And it has proven repeatedly, time and time again, to be really helpful for us. So, and it also helps me not get scammed. I actually was in the car with my ex-wife when she got scammed on the phone. And I was like, no, that is a scam. And she's like, she's just one of those people who's just paranoid about things. But what if, and I was like, no, it's legitimately just a scam. I was like, call the police. The police will tell you that that is a scam. She called the police and the police told her it was a scam. And I was like, come on.
I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm just kind of like, she just didn't take your word for it, did she?
No, anything. So. Let's see if this blue is a good decision or a bad decision. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful addition. I'm going to go about covering up some of my marks. It's going to make my heart hurt. You know, it's the truth. Today's really meant to be more of a day of play, less about structure and more about exploring and being weird. Kindergarten art class. One of the things that I really like about especially golden paints, which is what I use a lot of, is letting them bleed out a little bit and getting more of a translucent layer around them. So I like to spray on top of my paints and kind of let the acrylic bleed. And then essentially I'm going to dry it up a bit. I got myself a whole brand new roll of paper towels today to do this kind of thing for you all. And then it's just got what I call a halo, you know, where it just bleeds out just a little bit, super translucent, a very just kind of natural way of being. And I'm going to go in and sop up some of the brightness from this brayer roll that I just did and see about salvaging some of the marks underneath. And it's looking really beautiful now. Don't be afraid to pull paint up when you're working like this. It's always, you know, you can, while it's still wet especially, kind of pull it from the ground underneath, keep it up. You can also use that as different marks in other pieces. I tend to work on 2 pieces at a time so that I can, or 3, so that I can share color palettes, right? So now it's time to add some. Looking sexy. What? Oh. Okay. No way. I'm sending a photo of, you can see, of my color palette, and you can see why I chose the colors I did. Now I'm gonna work that into its own thing too.
Oh.
Oh, there is one thing. Oh, I forgot one thing I wanted to show you guys. Something about, I did this project when we first started with COVID, where I was working with tools that were on extenders. So it would add 6 feet between me and my surface. So sometimes in mark making, I do the same thing. You can see I've taped these 2 paintbrushes together like this. So I'm going to use this paintbrush with its extender. But the thing is, several things are out of my control. One is that this kind of contraption makes the paintbrush loose and not easy to control. And the other is that the longer it gets from your hand, the less control you have over it. And so you will find that you're going to make some more unique marks using something like this. Hold on, I'll get this guy who's drawing beautifully, FYI, out of the brush. I put a sumo brush on it, mainly because sumo brushes are already brushes that are meant to be used loosely. So that it makes something like this make more sense, you know. It's really hard to control, and it definitely gives you a little bit of perspective on how silly it can be. This is all silly. You know. However, I often find that I do have to go through with a good scraper and scrape up the residual paint just to kind of not completely trash everything else that's on the page.
Where's all my fucking water? There it is. Excuse my French. It's like, where's my water? It's right in front of my face.
I also went ahead and got myself, I found myself some of my ink sprays. So I have a walnut ink spray, and I have a eucalyptus ink spray. And you know, ink is a little different. I like that they're in spray bottles that are easy to use, and so they're a little different. I think also that they work really well with the stencils.
Oh, yeah.
So I tend to use them with the stencils a lot. You guys are getting me all,
Oh, cool. Yeah,
getting me all prepped for my live class.
that looks nice.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You can, when there are certain parts where it's like conglomerating that I don't like, I tend to just sop it up, even if
Oh,
there's a
okay.
hole in the design. You'll want to really let the ink dry though, because it's messy as you know what. But this guy's coming together very nicely. He definitely has some value. Very dark. Probably a little bit of white is going to need to come into here. But we're coming along. We're coming along. We probably need some smaller marks too. I do tend to go larger to smaller. However, this piece clearly has a bunch of small marks. You guys can't really see, but I did keep a bunch of the tiny little marks made by the fishnet from the lemons, and they look particularly beautiful. Probably a little more. Probably need to make sure that this goes over to the dark side. I am so sorry.
No, I'm totally used to that. Just sounds like my house.
It was something went in front of the place that was like a bike dragging a big thing, and it was really loud and awful. You should see how cute the dog, Leah's mom's dog, is.
I just saw Max. He's adorable.
A cutie. That's what it's about, you know. What am I? Okay. I do also often use stencils I've made myself, like I made this in another class. Mainly just because I feel like they're more specific to my own marks, you know. They're mine. This one's really dark. So much for having clean hands for gold leaf. I mean, did you really make artwork if it's not all over your hands? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'm liking those lines. I didn't do any good on adding some lightness to this painting, which is super dark. And just to point out some things that I do think about when making work is we talk about the 1/3 principle and not splitting things in half, right? So this one is very much split in half just because of the nature of how it was created. So some of the things that I'm going to need to work on with it are going to be figuring out how to even out its proportions better so that it's got a better cut, so it's more proportional. That will probably involve some kind of extension either of the blue or something in here to help that out. I do tend to really like some big marks down in the bottom right corner. That's just a characteristic of mine. And you can see it really clear here with this stencil that I used. I'm gonna dry this up with my gun.
My cats think they're being punished. Because
Oh,
I'm using my spray bottle.
Oh, yeah.
They're like looking at me like, what did we do? What did we do?
You're not spraying you, it's just the sound of something spraying. I really set myself up organized and pretty, and it has just gone downhill rapidly. Rapidly. Just chaos and mess right now, let me tell you.
They say creative people are messier. People who keep neat desks are not creative.
My desk is actually fairly neat. I try to clean it up, but you know why? Because I am a creative person who is naturally messy and has learned to clean up after myself. Let me tell you something. Walnut ink does not want to dry. It is something else. The rest of that's dried. Let's work on this one. Okay. Okay.
Okay, what do I need? I need something.
Yeah, this is when the get hard. You're like, I need a little bit more.
Need a color. Because Leslie didn't think about her colors before she started painting, which was what she does every day.
And what her teacher definitely told her not to do, because she knows.
I know, and it's every time it happens the same thing. Every freaking time I'm like, what do I do now?
I used to do the same thing, and then I would end up with paintings that just looked like too much of a cacophony of things, and it wasn't.
Yeah,
focused.
too much color, right? It's just like, and, you know, sometimes I think it really affects the shape. You know, I don't know of my marks. That sounds kind of weird, but I don't know.
You know, especially when you're like intuitive painting and it's a little more with the flow, we don't always take enough time to really consider the decisions that we're making.
Yeah.
So some of my pieces, you know, as I'm working on them, they're pretty dark. They lack a lot of value. They're bold and bright, which is really how I like them. Look how beautiful these are coming out right now.
Yeah.
But the good news is, while they lack value, and you definitely need for, you know, when we talk about what makes good abstract art, you know, balance and value become a big part of, you know, essentially what makes it really good, how you can change it from being mediocre to really good. Good news, I went out and bought myself a white of the water soluble crayons because.
Oh, yeah, I should get a white one.
Right. So on these paintings that are really dark, you can make white marks that then are much more significant. This might not be the right kind of white. I might need to go with my other one. I have a hardier white that I
where it comes
prefer.
out a little more white. Yeah. Well, I
That's
had
fine.
used my purple and green crayons, and then I went all over most of the purple with the black because I just didn't like it.
You're gutsy. Black is such a hard decision for me. It really feels like it's.
Yeah.
So this
You
is.
know, I love a really thick black crazy line
Yeah.
stuff. I used to do that like around a lot of my portraits, just not even straight, just really thin and in some spots. And
This is a graphite that what I have found for white mark making on top of really dark paintings is this is a graphite. It's the corner of a square. It comes in a it's water soluble, but it's like the clearest white I've used. It's like the thickest.
yeah.
And so these lines are showing up nicely in the ways
Yeah.
that oops. Use the broken corner. One of the things when we were doing our writing prompt that I wrote down was something that really inspires me is the ways that buildings break down. And when you find a building that has been like graffitied and repeatedly painted over, or that, you know, the way that decay affects things. And sometimes I really do recognize that in my work, you can really see that inspiration, the way that decay really shows through in my work because of the way that I layer. It's just always something that I've been drawn to. That's why like things like those writing prompts do become useful, is you can understand why you make the choices that you make, you know? now that I've got on this particular one some really great starts, I'm going to go in with my watercolor. I'm pretty much done with the acrylic. And now I'm going to add some watercolor just to kind of create some definition in some of the different places to change it up a little bit. But remember, watercolors definitely have to be top layer so that when they dry, they're not re-engaged with water or other liquids in other layers. This is when the work gets somewhat delicate and you almost can't tell until it really dries. And then you're like, oh yeah, that really made a difference that I went in there with that watercolor and livened it up a bit. I'm gonna do that right here.
Jeannie, is that coffee?
Yeah,
It looks awesome on that green.
thanks. It was
I
too much, so I
love
had to
it.
go in and blot some of it off, but yeah, it turned
Yeah,
out
but
good.
I love it.
Oh, I love it. I like the coffee so much.
I do too.
And it's really nice because, you know, any layers after that kind of will float on top of the coffee, which is really a nice, nice thing. Leslie, is the second photo the beginning and then
Yeah.
Wow, look how different it has changed.
Oh no, those are two different pieces.
Okay, I was like, whoa. What did you make your hot pink circles out of?
I have this, it's a piece of foam. I don't even know. Oh, you know what it's from? It's from the slip covers to my chairs that they give you to stick down in between to keep it tucked in.
Oh, yeah.
And they never stay in. So I just took them out and I was like, oh, I bet I can use that for something.
Yeah, I wish that I could hand my gold powder to you, Jeannie, through the computer.
Ooh, yeah.
Because my gold powder is particularly nice with coffee. It sits right on top because of the kind of stickiness of it.
Mhm.
And it just gives it a little extra shimmer. And I wish that I could pass that through.
Well, I'm using copper that does have some shimmer.
Yeah, I really like your color scheme. Was there like an influence on it?
Yeah, I love vintage things. And I also love greens and blues, but I love the way copper ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite metal. So I was trying to show copper aging.
That's totally what I'm getting.
Yeah, totally feel that.
Verdigris. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another one.
It's culturally like it's interesting what we get attached to, what we like and don't like. Sometimes when I go to museums and look at art. Oh yeah, so this is a different one, Jeannie. Look how different they look.
That's really cool.
I'm working on four. It's taking so long to dry between.
Yeah. Well, you know, a hairdryer. I don't know if you use a hairdryer, but a hairdryer is a great drying tool.
I didn't want to move the coffee around though.
You know, if you do it from above, just as a guy who's done it a lot, if you do it from above, the water will, the airflow will come straight down, and you control, it won't move the coffee grounds. What was the thing that made the like tire tracks almost?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my Chinese food knife.
See, look at that.
I love it. That's my favorite. That's my favorite weird tool.
It's so good.
What kind of knife is it? Is it a palette knife? I didn't hear you.
No, I call it my Chinese food knife. It's a to-go knife.
Oh, okay.
You just kind of scrape and
I get it.
The more you scrape back and forth, the more striations you get.
It's nice because it looks very repetitive in like good ways. Like
yeah. I thought it was a stencil.
So I love you guys, maybe something that would be fun is to share some of the things that you're using. Like it'd be great to see a picture of your foam roller and your knife, because it's always good to know what to look out for as we're finding things and keeping things. I worked at an art supply nonprofit that recycled art supplies for a couple of years, like as a volunteer job. And man, the cool things that I picked up.
Oh, I'll bet.
When I was moving from Portland, I definitely had to reduce my studio and not take just about everything that I had never used in a million years. There was one thing that I meant to show you and talk to you guys about when it comes to mark making. Let me see if I can get the block together and I'll show you. Give me a second. Cold in here. Another kind of random tool, I'm going to use this stamp just because it's available in my studio. You can use any block of cardboard or wood for this. If you want to, I've got this string here. It's kind of delicate, so it might be hard. Normally I would use like a thicker cord. And then you can wrap it around your block. And like I said, it can be cardboard. Like I have little cardboard boxes sometimes. I'm gonna wrap the string around my block, and then I'm gonna dip it in my paint on my glass palette and use it as a stamp. So what that stamp is gonna create is that the strings will create straight lines on my block, and then it becomes kind of its own thing. You can do it on wood, you can do it on cardboard, anything that can kind of hold up to the wetness that's going to be in the paint. I'm disappointed because I really want my good cord for this. We'll try it with this cord. It's probably not going to be as good. I like to do it with a really pronounced cord. Might be okay. So if you like to work with ink, this is also a great project for ink. Okay, so you can see where my thing is inked up now, where only the strings are inked up. And then it will create those kind of marks on my page.
Yeah.
Here, but I will take a better photo for you. It just is an interesting, and what I like, this kind of thing is really great if you do it with either a paint color that's super dark or a paint color that's super light.
Okay.
Just because it sticks out better. It's a really interesting and like easy way to kind of create an interesting textured stamp. And I will send you guys a picture of it. I'm clearly feeling a column lady because I make everything look like they're in columns today. Leslie's got some tools out today. What? Oh, so does Stephanie. Look at you go. Oh,
I know that was hilarious, Stephanie, about the gluten-free pasta.
I like that. And you know what, Stephanie, another food related item. A lot of artists carve stamps into potatoes because they're so carvable and they're so accessible. You could just cut them in half. You got that flat surface, draw on it what you want to do. I've seen them best used when you want to talk about what they call potato stamps, is basic shapes like a circle or like a triangle or like a square, something that has big, bold lines. They're not always great for super carvy stuff, but might be something you'd be interested in, is cutting a potato in half and seeing what you can make out of it. You make amazing things out of things that I never even think of. So I'm into it. So you can see my little string stamp in the corner of this little part. It's interesting. I like the gluten-free pasta idea. Oh, a little curler brush, so good. Q-tips are my favorite circle making tool. They're consistent. Yeah, Leslie's really got some stuff on deck for this. Okay, let's see how dry we're looking. Okay, we're gonna do it on this one. Okay, I want to give you guys this demo before the day is out. So, and I know that I've kind of previously demoed a little bit about gold leaf. So I am choosing on this luxurious demo painting that I have going here. I'm going to create a gold leaf line. I like to tape the line so that the gold leaf adhesive doesn't go anywhere else. So I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Right. So gold leaf, you have to make sure that you use the right adhesive for it. That is the most important part. Even this is the right, it's Mona Lisa adhesive. It has been around a bit and it still might not work as well as my new bottle, which somehow has disappeared, which is pretty common in my life. I think it's at my home studio. So I have brushes that are specifically for gold leafing, the adhesive, because the adhesive is super sticky. And you need to make sure you shake it up. We're going to shake it up. Okay, so here's the thing. I like to lightly apply it because it can get out of control very quickly. This dollop that I just put on here will be enough for the whole painting for me. We're going to do this whole line. So we're doing it with the tape, so it stops the adhesive. I do kind of work the adhesive to make sure that it's evenly applied. And then I will actually go in and remove the adhesive from the tape that is extra just because we don't want it getting in the way. And then I will run my brush back through. So there is a time frame that you're looking for from the adhesive. It says on the bottle that it's like 20 or 30 minutes. It has never in my life been 20 or 30 minutes. So I feel like that's a lie. What you're waiting for is this adhesive is going to dry to a point where it is tacky and it needs to be like, at that point, we're going to put our gold leaf on. But when our adhesive gets tacky, we're going to pull our tape up first so that our gold leaf isn't trying to attach itself to the tape. And then we will brush it away and see what is left. Luckily, I'm an abstract painter. I'm not using gold leaf in a portrait. And so I'm not as attached to the outline. I buy the Speedball Mona Lisa gold leaf, mainly because it's affordable and I can get it in like every kind of gold leaf, copper leaf, silver leaf, fake gold leaf, real gold leaf, like the gamut. Some gold leaf people actually apply gold leaf with gloves on. They use the same kind of white gloves that you would use in going to a museum and hanging work, because the gold leaf won't stick to it. What I like to do is I'm going to wash my hands again, make sure that my hands are totally dry and completely clean, and then I just use my hands. But they will stick to the oil, so it's something you do have to know about.
Christia, is it toxic at all? Is that why some people use gloves?
It's not about toxic. I mean, I'm sure that it's toxic, somewhat toxic, because it's adhesive and you wouldn't want to eat it. My understanding
No,
is,
I mean the gold.
no, it's that it's sticky. And you'll see, like, I have to make sure that there are no, like, I have a fan above my desk. I have to make sure that the fan's not on. I have to make sure that right? Because it's so lightweight, it's so flimsy, and it'll just blow away. So if it gets stuck to your fingers because they're not cleaned well enough, well, then you mess up the whole process. I also have to get my gold leafing brush. I learned, because I've been using gold leaf a lot in my paintings for probably 10 years now. And I am not the most exact gold leafer, but I have definitely, I feel like I've gotten pretty decent at it. And what I learned was almost as important as how well the stickiness is, the adhesive is the brush that you use to varnish it. And so I use a cheap kind of wiry brush that I got at the craft store. It's very cheap, but what makes it really special is that the bristles are very rough. And so it really pushes it down. Whereas like a softer, higher quality brush might just like lightly move it. You want it really to stick to the adhesive. We're almost there, not quite. I'm gonna get my brush. Here's a great example of how I used it in a piece. It's very interesting the way, and you can see where I use coffee too right here. Bunch of coffee. but you can see how shiny it is. And it really like adds another dimension. The little dots at the top are also gold leaf. This is my gold leaf brush. You can always tell it's my gold leaf brush because it's kind of black, which happens from the actual process of rubbing the gold leaf in. Really got to wait on this and not mess it up. Wow, that's beautiful. I want to get out my little air dryer, I think, and move it along a little bit more.
What's up, baby? Hey, are you getting alcohol?
Huh?
Oh, sorry, I'm talking to Mike.
I was like, what? You know what, Judy, can I tell you something about the photos you just sent me?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a start of a mixed media abstract Instagram. Like you just
Well, I did 4 of them because I kept waiting for the other ones to dry. So,
very beautifully curated is what I'm saying.
oh,
Very-
thank you.
Oh, you're going to be really, oh, look at this paint. It's going to ruin this whole painting.
Oh, no.
Tape. Oh,
Ah,
Oh,
it can be salvaged.
you
I have faith in
grab the
that.
white wine. I'd rather have the wine in the fridge. On the side.
I'll take mine.
it does
Leslie.
does that happen when the paint is still wet, or does it
It's
just do it sometimes?
This is a cheap tape. If I
Oh.
was to say to you,
What did you do?
oh, sorry, snacks. But what I will say is I don't mind the rips. They're kind of beautiful. Holy hell. Look, it's like it helped my painting for me. I would say that
Yeah, they kind of look good, but sorry, I'm
taking
interrupting you.
to buy the high quality painter's tape, it's totally worth it. This is one that comes from like a cheap store here. It's not a dollar store, but it's kind of like a dollar store. It's an experience that everybody who comes to Astoria should experience. It's called Deals Only.
Yeah, only deals, man.
Okay, so this is copper leaf, shiny, shimmery.
Ooh.
And delicate as heck. Ah, we have landed. So it's stuck to my finger, right? Because I didn't properly clean them off. But the good news is it would rather stick to the adhesive than my finger. And it's like floaty and flittery. It will stick to other mediums that are sticky. Like sometimes it sticks to the coffee, strangely. So don't be surprised if that happens. You will see when you're working with it, the line where it's sticking, and you'll be able to do what I just did, which is like rip some of the side parts off to help yourself create the line, you know?
Yeah.
And just continue. I'm actually going to try and see what happens when we do it on this weird rippy spot, you know? Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've covered all of my adhesive with the leaf. Okay, this one has gone awry because of the tape ripping off, but that's not the end of the world for us all. And you're going to burnish it. This is what keeps it there and what pulls off the other gold leaf. It does make a mess, which you can see it's going on my apron, but it's not an unusual mess in these parts.
And
then
can you reuse the parts that you've brushed off?
you can. Some people do, and you can also fix it. So if you're creating something specific and you're like, it's not perfect, like I will send you guys a picture of this because it looks really beautiful, but there's this one little spot right here because it's the paper ripped that hurts my line. If I wanted to fix my line, I could go in there with the adhesive, reapply the adhesive and do it again. And there are even ways, if you use a very fine box knife or X-Acto knife, you can like scrape off the edges to make it perfect. But at this point, it's good. It's shiny. You know, it's really quite beautiful. I'll get you guys a nice little picture of this. I have to say, the painting actually kind of came up nice with the little rips. As weird as it was.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, me
It
too.
looks kind of like clouds going through the sky.
It does. It reminds me also of the 80s, which is a big passion of mine. Ripped jeans, how they would do the t-shirts in the 80s that had the like tiger scrapes.
Yeah. Had them all.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, it's a zinger. So you can, in theory, man, those pieces are looking so good, Jean.
Thank you.
I love it. My whole painting might be just kind of a dream from the 80s, really.
That is beautiful. I've been looking at these coming across the thread and been like, yum, yum, yummy.
I told Jeannie that the 4 photos, they're the photos that she sent in a little block, look like a abstract artist Instagram starter pack.
They totally do.
Gosh, the yellow, Leslie. It is bold and I love it.
Never
Yeah,
use
Les, I
yellow
love
like
it.
that.
It is like, you're
Oh my fucking God. It is.
like
It's great.
I love it. See, that's the one I'd want in my house. So I'm like, that's the
Come
one
get
I
it,
want.
honey.
This one is sadly still drying. It's
Oh,
really,
Carista, that's stunning.
we did
It's
some
like
weird,
a forest.
we did some weird stuff today. We did another gold.
It's wild, kooky stuff.
Everyone to send pictures of their tools because that was the best part. Did you see Stephanie?
Yes, she had
Yes.
beans and dried spaghetti, gluten-free.
Also doing awesome work. I would love to know what Emma's circles are.
Yeah.
How did you make those, Emma?
They're on orange.
That makes total
Yeah.
sense.
Starts
You
to
know-
right out of my heart, going straight for the food products.
Mhm. Well,
And
it's,
then it
I'm,
kinda looks
I'm
like
at my
some-
table.
And it
So
looks like watermelon underneath the oranges
Oh.
and a lobster in between.
All right, now the drugs come out.
Once you start talking about food, my brain goes there.
the lobster is like a dead plant, and the triangles are a pot scraper.
Nice.
Yes. I love it. You know, once you start to look at things and go, what kind of alternative tools can I use? It changes the game.
I like Stephanie's idea. You buy some food and you go, oh, this tastes disgusting. What can I do with it? I'll make art.
Right?
I love it. That's what this is about. These ones, this one is so busy. It definitely needs a little bit of time. And this one just needs to dry so that maybe it can get saved a little bit. Because it's quite beautiful. The walnut ink stripes are really delicious and tasty.
Yes, they are. Do you know Benz and Chang, right? The guy who works, he works like pretty like exclusively with walnut ink. And it's a wonderful material.
Did you see my text message about having all 4 jurors now?
No.
Yep.
All right. That's great.
Yeah.
We're off and running.
Yep. We're making it happen.
Hopefully I'll get to the Gales girls this weekend and get our,
We're going the right direction. Everything's happening.
everything's happening. Oh yeah.
It's all happening at the zoo.
I do feel, Leslie, like my life is a zoo.
Yeah, that's an old commercial for the Portland Zoo.
I remember
Well,
that,
I was
but
a
isn't it
child of
based
the
on it?
70s.
Isn't that a
Memorized it.
Paul Simon song? Or Simon
It's a
Brown?
Paul Simon.
Yeah,
It's a Paul Simon song.
and-
It's all
yeah.
happening at the zoo.
Oh, was it?
I
Okay,
do
was it? Yeah.
believe it. I do
Of course,
believe
I
it's
remember
true.
it. from TV.
My dad used to sing that to me as a lullaby.
Aw,
Aw.
that's so cute. I love that.
Well, and in at the end, Emma melts the glass.
She bounced the glass. Oh.
That's really sweet.
The Winnie the Pooh song, I wish that it's a classic rock song. I wish that I could remember who wrote it, but it's like,
It's about Christopher Robin. Yeah.
because my name is Krista. And so she associated, for some reason, I must have really liked Winnie the Pooh. I don't really remember liking Winnie the Pooh, but I must have liked Winnie the Pooh because she would sing the Christopher Robin song to me.
Oh,
Oh, I love the Christopher Robin song. That was a
And
great
now,
one.
when I see a good blustery day, which happens a lot in Astoria, Oregon.
Return to Blue Corner by Kenny Loggins.
Yes, that's it. That's my song. That's my jam.
go with the
Love
trivia.
it.
Oh my God. We've just gone back in time. Hey, in the abstract art class, you'll go back in time. Forward.
Like I started doing abstract art because it was a way of processing memories and like,
Right.
with those memories. So it would make sense that we would, this class, we would perhaps do some
Processing of memories.
stuff.
Yeah.
My dad used to call me Snot Blossom.
Aw, how
Did you
sweet.
not? I know, isn't that sweet?
Well, I call my cat Booger Butt, so I guess, you know.
Same. That's so cute. Booger butt.
I used to swing on my crib when I was very little. I would jump up and down. So all night long, my parents would hear "ee, ee, 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 ee," as I like. So they called me Monkey.
Oh my gosh.
Aw.
Monkey.
And
I
now
thought,
all
yeah.
night she does something else in her bed goes.
Not as much as I would like these days. I keep falling asleep.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get older.
Tell me about it. Oh, Emma, that's really lovely. I love these orange blue juxtapositions that I'm seeing. That's nice. Stephanie, where's your piece? I haven't seen any Stephanie yet.
I think she's foraging currently.
She's in the zone, right?
I love the materials she used.
What you got for us, Stephanie?
Oh yeah, Emma, I'm into it. The yellow in the
Yeah,
background.
Emma, I love it. Emma, what were those circles? Is that still oranges?
That's also oranges. It was just like a more watery paint.
Very cool.
You know, all last week we painted oranges because they're a lot like spheres. And people were starting to practice painting, except for poor Jean, who is being tormented by me in face drawing. So I actually was looking at that texture and thinking it looked familiar. Why does that texture look familiar? Oh, it's oranges.
The guy who owns the building that our office is in was telling me today that Florida used to make 248 million oranges a year, and they're down to 48 million oranges a year, which means that there is crop rot. He's an old farmer, so he's an ex-farmer, so this is something he's interested in, but there's a crop rot that is happening in Florida that is ruining the orange crops they have yet to find a way to stop it, that could potentially make oranges extinct.
Don't tell me that. I eat 2 to 3 a day.
Florida. They're going to be hard to get.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind of already not growing in Florida. Like they've been a while that they've not been growing in Florida.
All this crop rot is what it is.
Wow. Do you think that's global warming related? Do you think it's because the weather is changing?
I will tell you,
Couldn't help.
the food cart I work at serves a poke bowl, which has albacore tuna. And we source the albacore tuna from a boat that fishes tuna off of the Oregon and Washington coast. And Brian got an email today that essentially the prices of tuna, like she hadn't raised the prices of tuna for the past 2 years, but she's already raised it twice in the last 6 months because they're not finding tuna.
They're not finding tuna.
There's
Yeah.
only 600, there's like 648 fish frozen in her warehouse. And I mean, Brian goes through 2 fish a day at work.
Wow.
So
Emma, your tools look like a still life in themselves.
Yeah, that's a really cool shot.
That orange in particular just looks really fucking badass.
Yeah.
I love the green on it. Yeah.
I feel like you should use this photo as a painting prompt in one of your.
On
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you should paint it. Absolutely.
Or like, what could you paint with if you could use these? Like this, but this is an encouragement.
I gotta say the flower was pretty disappointing. I was expecting a lot more out of it, but it didn't really work.
No, it didn't work as well as you wanted it to.
No.
They really got tried to be their best
Yeah,
self.
because they get really limp when they're wet.
Right.
Yeah, it also just was like, I don't know. Yeah, it just wasn't very defined, like the different pods and stuff.
But the orange was the kind of the sleeper
Yeah.
hit tool because it's got so much texture.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was
It's
like
very textured.
So
Yeah,
if we were all in the same room, it would smell like breakfast between the coffee and the oranges.
Yeah.
yeah.
Breakfast for dinner for sure. Carissa, thank you so much. Do you have
Thanks,
anything else you
everyone.
want to tell the class before we go?
Nope, this is it, kids. Next week I have not figured out next week yet, and I'm terribly sorry, but I will find something for it.
Oh, Stephanie, Jesus. Wow. Nice. Look at Stephanie's before you
Oh, that's
go.
Oh, Stephanie, that's gorgeous.
Can you believe my husband just asked if it's representing anything?
Well, you can
Yeah.
see things in it. You can see things in
Yes.
it. I'm kind of seeing a face. I'm kind of seeing
Tell him-
plants.
Tell him it's a portrait of him.
Tell him it's a picture of your last fight.
Or the cosmos. It represents the creation of time and life itself.
Nice.
I love it, Stephanie. It's beautiful.
It's a
You
trip to
definitely-
Tiffany's jewelry store, actually.
Yeah.
Tiffany
Yeah, you've
blue.
got that Tiffany blue in there. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah.
Krista.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to log off to get back to my shift.
Yeah, we gotta go. Thank you for taking time off from your shift. We'll see everybody next week. Great work.
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Have a good
Thank
week.
you.